Hi, everyone. Welcome to our book club, High Performance Habits. This is week 10. And I am going to be going over the chapter, The Number One Thing with Natalie. And we're really excited because there's some good stuff here. He starts off talking about the 3 C's of confidence. And it opens up with the 30 people that he is surveying out of the 20,000 people. I'm sorry, he's going to talk about the 30 people that he surveyed out of 20,000. And so they all agreed with this statement. I am confident I can achieve my goals despite challenges or resistance. And if that's not good, I'm like, you need to write that down, put it on your desk. Say it as your affirmations, because that is really powerful. So along with the words engaged and joyful, confident is one of the 3 words that high performers use most to describe their consistent emotional state. And that's incredible. So if you are confident, then you most likely, he talks about, how you most likely have greater clarity, goes back to all the habits, greater clarity, energy, productivity, influence, necessity, and courage. And confidence is the gateway to what we all want in life. We all want a successful business. We all want successful relationships, and confidence is the gateway to all of that and more in life. Then he talks about another analysis across 57 cross-cultural studies of 22,000 people. And it suggests that the more confident you are, the less likely you are to feel burnout. And I thought that was really interesting, because we hear a lot about burnout in business, in general. Hear a lot of people talking about burnout. So it's interesting that there's this connection that if you feel more confident, then you are less likely to feel burnout from work. And he says, why? Because high performers know how to say no. They know how to say no, and they know what to focus on, which makes them less prone to distraction. High performers are not people pleasers, right? So they can say no. They can say no, and they have the clarity to put their energy where they actually need to put their energy in. They're not putting their energy into too many things. They're focused. So the 3 C's of confidence, competence, congruence, and connection. I'm going to be going over the first 2, and then Nat's going to finish us off. But he labels them as practices. And so practice 1, develop competence. So obviously he talks about how the more confidence you are, the more competence, more competence, and more competent you are, the more confident you'll be. So he calls it the confidence competent loop. If you have one or the other, they're only going to feed each other. And he gives the gym example, which I think is so good. Like when you go to the gym, he says, the more you go, the more you know. If you don't go, then you're always going to be scared of going to the gym. I know so many people that are afraid to go to the gym because it's an intimidating place for a lot of people. And so he's saying, confidence is a muscle that you have to build through exertion. So to high performers, confidence isn't just about I like myself or I feel good about me, which I think is a very basic idea. I think that a lot of people have, like, they think that that's what confidence is, that you just feel good about who you are. But he says, that high performers, they think, I know what to do and how to add value here. And I think that is true confidence, when you're not so self-focused, but you are focused about others and how you can add value. Practice 2, he talks about being congruent. So I think this is really important because he talks about self-trust. And then he opens up with the Emerson quote, self-trust is the first secret to success. And I think, it's important for us to know, like, what does congruency look like in my business or for me? And it's who you are, what you say, and what you do when all those things are working in harmony with each other. So I think for us, we're a health and wellness company, right? I mean, we work for Plexus, and if I'm taking a selfie every day in front of McDonald's, that's not congruent. Like that's not going to work. And so he says high performers don't wait for others to define who they ought to be. They take control, define who they want to be, and start living in accordance with that self-image. I feel like, okay, yeah. So when they live in congruence with who they want to be, they have more confidence in their life. Back to confidence. When you have clarity in who you are, you're going to be more confident. High performers no longer feel the fake it till you make it. And I thought that was really interesting because I know that's a phrase that often gets thrown around a lot. But they're not faking it till they make it anymore. Like maybe in the beginning they did, but not anymore. You cannot fake it till you make it for that long. And so high performers have clear intentions. So like I said, no clarity, no congruence, and then no confidence. And then I do have some questions, but we'll go over that at the end.
So good. Okay. So I have practice 3, which is enjoy connecting. And I'm so happy I got that one. Because the first quote on practice 3 of enjoy connecting is you can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you. And that is like life motto. I always say, given the opportunity to be interested or interesting, choose interested. I teach my kids that. It is something I live my life by. And so you will always win people over by being interested. And I love how he breaks this down. This was so interesting to me. So he says, as high performers, as you know, high performers love to develop influence with others. They enjoy connecting with people and learning how they think, what challenges they face, and what they are trying to stand for in this world. That breakdown is so good. When you are genuinely interested in understanding people, I feel like I do have this desire to get to know people's stories and what they think, what makes them tick and what, like what they stand for. This is so good. He goes on to say, how high performers have learned that connecting with others, that there's tremendous value in relating to others. They've learned that it is by connecting with others that they learn more about themselves and the world. Connecting with others leads to greater understanding, not just of that person, but the world and yourself. Like there's such a bigger picture at hand when you're just having a conversation with a cashier. And that's why we can't be living in task mode constantly. There's way too much to learn that you're missing out just knocking off tasks all the time. So he says the hit of learning is what high performers told me gives them so much drive to engage. They're learning constantly. This is an important distinction, especially if you don't consider yourself a people person. It doesn't matter whether or not you're natural with others. What matters is, do you want to learn from others? Will you take the time to do it? And will you genuinely try to engage someone and learn how they think, what they need, and what they stand for? If you can summon that curiosity to talk to enough people with that intention, you will gain confidence. High performers' confidence then comes from a mindset that says, I know I will do well with others because I'll be genuinely interested in them because I want to learn. And so you go into every social networking interaction, every group, every conversation. It's not about me. It's about my ability to be curious, genuinely interested, and willing and desiring to learn. That right there, that takes the edge off. I learned recently that what's behind social anxiety is the thought that I'm not going to be liked. Going into a situation, thinking about, will people like me? I'm not going to be liked. I'm not going to be accepted. What am I going to say? And all of that, you get to push all of that aside by going in and having the confidence to say, I'm going to just be interested in people. It's not all about me. It doesn't have to be about what I have to say and what I've got going on. It's learning about others. And I just thought that was so good. So he goes on to talk about what drives all of these things together is curiosity. Like curiosity is involved in competence, congruence, and connection. So the equation is curiosity as the main thing times competence plus congruence plus connection equals confidence. And I'm like, what a profound, like, a formula right there. Seeing the connection of all of those things. That is really, really cool. And the whole point, having confidence, like, to do this and to become extraordinary in Plexus and to make a difference and to make an impact, you're going to need confidence. And so dialing that back to curiosity and competence, congruence, and connection is really powerful if you get a grasp on that. He says curiosity is the electric arc for a life bright with joy and vibrancy. That whole sentence just really lit me up. Like I was like, wow, the electric arc for a life bright with joy and vibrancy. Like that's what I want. And so yeah, I thought that was so powerful. Yeah. So as we kind of wrap up this book, he kind of wraps up at the end of this chapter, going over it. He says, I've also shared ease is not the objective of personal development. Growth is. And so I think going into, wrapping this up and applying this to your life, realizing that you're not going after ease, you're going after growth. He says at the end, I hope that as you close this book, you decide to live with similar intention and reverence for your life. His intention is, did I live? Did I love? Did I matter? And so having that focus and intention and reverence for your life too is important. How do you want to live your life? And so he says at the very end, you become extraordinary because you choose to. You choose. It is all a choice. Who you become is a choice. It is not extraordinary, living an extraordinary life, becoming an extraordinary person won't just happen. You get to choose though. And that is the most empowering thing. So we have some final questions. This book has been incredible. Natalie, I'll let you ask. I have a couple questions. Natalie has a couple questions too.
Yeah, when I saw this one as one of the prompts, I was like, wow, this would be really, really good to ask, because I think we can get some really good stuff from it. It says, what is something you've learned to do in the past few years that you haven't given yourself credit for?
So for me, I remember when I first started this business, I didn't want to lead calls. I didn't want to lead anything. Like the thought terrified me. I am not your leader type of person at all. Fallon was like, all right, you're going to start leading book club with me. And I didn't want to do that. Didn't want to do any of it. And honestly, I was thinking about that today. I was like, wow, I've really come a long ways. Like, I think it's fun now. Like, so You know, it just goes to show that doing things scared is so important, and to not let fear hold you back.
Okay, so I'm gonna hop in. I think just leading people in general, because I always have this mindset that because it was such a weakness of mine that, I'm still behind, still behind. And I think looking back, I should be, more proud of how far I've come. Not that I'm not proud, but you know what I mean? It's like sometimes I have that mindset of like, I still feel behind or like I need to grow so much. And I'm sure that's, part of that is good, but I think I need to do a better job of reflecting and being like, okay, I've come so far and I'm doing the hard things and leaning into it. And it's almost become a thing that's like, if I feel uncomfortable, I know I'm on the right track. And it's like a normal feeling now. It's almost like you crave the discomfort in a weird, twisted way. I don't know. But I think just that, just viewing myself as a leader and not being afraid to lead people.
That's good.
So, for me, I feel like it's vulnerability because I, like my whole life, I've always been the strong one, the one that's kind of held it together, not shown many emotions. Um, and so like since starting Plexus, I've really been able to open up a lot more and let people in my life and show people like my caring side. You know, I still have kind of like a rough exterior, but I care deeply. And I used to not show that at all. So I feel like just being more vulnerable, letting people in, I've grown a lot there.
Love that. Yeah, I think maybe some of you can agree too. For me, like just owning what I do is great. And I've come a long way in that. Like just, yeah, have you heard of Plexus? Yeah, I do that. I help a bunch of women feel better, like just not being weird about it. Cause I think even when you've done this for a long time, it can still be a little weird. You know what I mean? Like, how do I describe this so that you can understand it in like, 30 seconds? But just owning what we do, we help people. And that's something to really be proud of. You can probably ask a question, Nat, if there's nobody else.
That was such a good question. What do you, what do you, how do you, what is the question again? What have you done? I'm like,
Like something I've learned in the past few years, I haven't given myself credit for.
That's such a good question and something to really dig in.
Mhm.
I think, this being a personal growth industry, digging into tons of things. Like I've learned how to set boundaries because of Plexus. I've leaned into deeper healing because of Plexus, because of what I've learned and the resources in the community that I'm around that has encouraged me to become the best version of myself. And so it's a lot of hard work to grow in general and to grow and to heal and to confront things that are holding you back. And so, yeah, like I think a lot of the time we don't give ourselves enough credit for all of that. Because personal growth is it's work. So yes. My question is, what are in regards to connecting with people beyond I guess like I kind of like let's help each other out beyond the where are you from? Where do you live? How long have you been here? What do you do? Besides those, kind of boring questions, what questions do you like to ask people that really foster deep connection?
Got me thinking.
I think of for example, I think of the Vanessa Van Edwards one, like what personal passion, I can't talk tonight. What
Like a
personal
passion
passion
project.
project are
Yeah.
you working on right now? Like, what are you working on right now?
Mhm.
Somebody, I met somebody recently and they told me that they live in Brooklyn, and I was just like, wow, can you tell me, like, what's your experience been living there? What's that like to live there? Instead of kind of reframing, like, where are you from? Okay. Like, what's your experience been living there? What's that like? Yeah, so those are my examples. Give me
So
examples.
this sales training I've been doing lately, he was actually talking about how you need to go deep with your conversation instead of going wide. And honestly, I've been guilty of that because when you go wide, it's like an interview. Oh, you're not from here. Okay. Where are you from? And then, oh, okay. And then just another random question, random question, random question. But instead going deeper, like Natalie just said, is really, really important. And that's something I want to be better at because I'm not.
One of my favorite things, and I wouldn't say it's like first level question, but after you've maybe had a conversation or two with somebody, most people like to complain about stuff. And I've really enjoyed asking people, in a sense, like, if you could fix 2 or 3 things, what would they be, and how would you do that? And I really enjoyed asking it because people freaking love answering it. And so it's been really fascinating to listen to. I think people just like the fact that somebody asked, and then it gives them like a positive way to complain, if that makes sense. Like, what would you change and how would you change it, versus people just moaning and complaining about things. So that's been a fun one I kind of accidentally stumbled across lately.
I definitely think it's important to have those go-to questions. And I think for me, always, like, tell me what your experience with that has been like. Oh, wow, really? What, just asking people, like Courtney was saying, instead of the interview. I love how, like don't go wide, go deep. Like, that's really a great way to put it. But just, what is your experience with that been like? Another go-to is when you're meeting someone. I sometimes will say, what's your story? Like, tell me, people do not get an opportunity to really tell, like, their story, and there is so much more than what meets the eye with people. Like, we make wrong assumptions with people all the time. So, if you can think of anything, any other questions that are really good, deeper connection questions, drop those in the chat if you come up with them. Nat, do you have another question?
Yeah, this is more like a fill in the blank, but the person I really want to be in life could be described as
the two of you and your questions tonight. I don't usually have a loss for words, but y'all making me think over here. I finally come up with an answer for Natalie, the other Natalie's question. I like to ask people how they feel about something. Like, how do you feel about that? Like, oh, their kids are going to college, or they just got a new dog. How do you feel about that? Like, do you like it? Do you enjoy it? So I'm running into the problem where people don't ask questions back, and then I feel like I'm just asking so many questions. I don't run out of questions, but people don't know how to communicate. It's quite horrible, to be honest. But I just forgot your question, Natalie. Or just, what was your question?
the person I really want to be in life could be described as what?
Productive. I get very angry when I'm not productive, and it's probably the main disagreements Caleb and I have. Like, feel like I can't be productive. I need you to help me be productive, not hold me back from being productive. So I really realized that this year that is I really want to be productive. Like, I don't want to just raise kids. I want to be intentional. And I guess another way would say it would be intentional with my time and my life, because it just goes so fast.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking intentional too. Like just being intentional, my relationship with my husband, my parenting, my friendships. If you're not intentional, I mean, yeah, it feels like time just really does fly by. And then that's scary because you're like, what's happening? Why is my baby crawling already?
So I'll share. I just finished going through this book that's called Building a Resilient Life. Interesting going through a book about building a life when you're nearly 52. And it's funny that your baby's crawling. My baby is finally coming home. I haven't seen her in 4.5 months. So being a resilient person, like having gone through that study, I want people to see that. And I kind of posted that on my post today, that trials don't break you if your support system is the Lord, right? So I want people to say that about me, that, it wasn't all peaches and cream, but the Lord. So I would hope that for my life.
All right, I'll share. I feel like I've been really pressing into the Lord saying like courage. Like I want to be known for my courage, that I like go out in faith, that I do the hard things because people need me. And to show up in courage looks like a lot of different things, right? Getting out of your house, talking to people, starting up conversation, asking the questions and going deep, and like having to set the boundaries to protect yourself, to not like take on their emotions or their sadness and their feelings, but like warrior up and like, build that shield and be like, it's on, let's go. So like, I want that courage. I want that courage that's like, nothing's going to stop me because God is in this with me and he's called me to help people. Like Valid. We all need learn a little bit of like how to communicate. Like I feel like this Plexus, this community, this growth has helped me to do that. It has helped me to realize the questions to ask, to be intentional, to really care what other people's stories are, because like we are all connected. And when we get to share and grow in that way, like the most beautiful things come to life. And when we get to do that with a company that helps in our happiness and like overall well-being, like boom, why wouldn't we have the courage to shield up in God, his full armor, and say like, let's go out and change the world, like wake people up, help them communicate better, help them feel better, help them just connect and build a community that is just so, sorry, I'm like heart on fire, you guys.
Yeah, I'm like,
my kids are
yeah,
probably like, why is
more.
mom shouting? We're trying to sleep. But that's that's what I want to encompass. That's what I'm working towards. That's the vision.
Wow, that's amazing. You just pumped me up.
Natalie, I want to know yours.
Me? Mine?
Yeah, you. You.
Yeah, I mean, I want to be remembered as a woman of faith for sure. A life lived in faith, that I've walked the narrow road and that I'm not someone who gives up, that I am someone who just presses on. So many things, but also, like I said before, like just someone who lived an intentional life. Like I'm intentional in my walk with the Lord, intentional with my family, intentional in my relationships. Yeah.
That's really, really good. I love that. Anybody else want to share? I know it's 9:33, so I'm sure we can keep on going and going. I won't take up any more time. So we got time for one more. Who wants to be brave?
Oh, I unmuted. I don't know if Brielle yelled, but anyway. I think just so you ladies just said so many good things. And I think just being remembered for, doing the things and experiencing life and being there for others and just loving people well. And I mean, I kind of like being a little crazy at times. So I hope people kind of remember that about me. I mean, Brielle agrees. Her crazy mom. But going back to just talking about people, I get asked a lot about connecting with people because I feel like it's something that's always been relatively easy for me. And it wasn't until probably more recently that I started paying attention to what I was doing to connect with people. And like it's nothing for me, y'all, to sell stuff on Marketplace and friend 40, 50 people a month. I mean, I got a lot of stuff to sell, but it's easy for me. And I'm like, what am I saying to these people? And when I think about it, y'all, I'm literally just talking about them and asking them questions and connecting with them. A lot of what you ladies said, Fallon said, what do you think about that? I say, oh, I saw like on a profile picture, your daughter plays volleyball. I ask questions about their family. I ask them, if they're from this area. This one lady was from Hawaii. We talked about Hawaii. So I think just kind of intentional connecting and really truly caring about people. And I found that a lot of these people don't always get the chance to interact with other adults, and they don't even get asked about how their day is. And so that connection with other people is they love that, people love to talk about themselves. And so I think that's the biggest thing is like, you could never ask somebody enough questions. Just being even the slightest bit interested in talking. And I do want to do a call sometime on this. Fallon and I was trying to this month, but there's a lot of examples I could show and stuff, but it really does just come down to putting the other person first and really just getting deep into things with them, and people will talk. They'll just talk. So that's, yeah, this chapter I think was a lot about that too. So good stuff.
I love
Little
that.
Miss needs to go to bed.
So good. Well, okay, you guys, we will wrap it up. This book is incredible, life-changing. Go through it again, implement this stuff, and this will change your life. This book definitely changed my life, and continues to do so. The more I go through it, I just love it so much. And we will let you know. We are not for sure about the next book, but we'll have a little break. And yeah, everybody enjoy your Christmas. Good night.